Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and all those other times. This is the Trumpeter's Philosopher Corner. I'm a composer. I'm based in far north Queensland on the east coast of Australia, definitely living in the tropics. We do have crocodiles, we do have the Great Barrier Reef, we do have jellyfish, stingers, and we also have a paradise environment of the ancient Daintree forest, rainforest, oldest continuous rainforest in the world, palm trees, coconuts, and you name it. Monsoon, cyclones, and beautiful weather in the winter, which we're just coming into. Having said that, back to the topic of music. So there's the rise of AI. AI is becoming increasingly sophisticated in terms of some aspects. There are topics already on the media talking about the use of the education. Does the AI writing of scripts harm students at school? Should it be used? Should it be employed? AI is a tool. Will it be used in the music industry? Definitely. Should it be used in the music industry? That's what I'm talking about now. So I've written and fortunate enough to come through an era without AI, and I say that because the way that I approach writing music is still a bit traditional. I do use a computer to engrave the notes rather than put on pieces of paper and transfer later. But aside from a tone at a time and a playback opportunity, there is no AI assistance to what I do. And I use a program that's been around for a while called Avid Sibelius, and each note is a tap of your, in my case, right finger, and a note will be placed down on the electronic manuscript and you can do a playback. But there could be over 80,000 notes, who knows, in a large work. So if you want to play a chord, you won't hear the chord until you put all the notes in manually. And then you can play the chord. In the past, composers have used their inner hearing, their knowledge of music, and also have been assisted with a piano. They'll play the chord on the piano, etc., to get the sound and the texture of what they're playing. AI is now got to the stage where you can type in, in a script, you can type in, I need 2 and 3 minutes of romantic soft strings orchestral music, and it will generate something using its innate standard of bank of algorithms. You might be able to better define it, say it's romantic period or classical or even Baroque, and that, if it's not here already, it will be coming in the near future. I can see movie directors, particularly Hollywood directors, but any director who's not particularly concerned with the music side of it. And when I say that, I mean that they want the music for its effect rather than the integrity that a piece of music was composed programmatically. So in other words, there's a car chase, could ask the computer AI, I need 23 seconds of fast-paced action music, heavy orchestral and lots of percussion, and that's pretty much what it's going to be in terms of the input from a director or a producer. The computer will generate a soundscape, and then there will be probably some options. No, I don't like that, I want to increase the tempo, or there might be some different versions. And then that'll just be added to underscore what's happening in the cinematic episode. Is that the knell for composers who write programmatically like myself. If I do a ballet, I read a script and I then try to internalize it and subconsciously work it through and then re-express it as a soundscape in music. So I'm a product of my upbringing and education and background in music, but no, I don't go through a whole library of algorithms to emulate, I might use that word. So the creativity that a human brings is something a bit different than what AI can do. AI has to use what it has in its bank at that particular time, and or what's available to it to source. And a human doesn't creatively think in that process. A human does have an understanding and an experience of the different forms. Let's talk about classical music. The human would have heard Mozart, the human would have heard Bach, and an idea of the stylistic sounds that would make up those. And of course the composers also living in their particular context. All composers in some way reflect their environment. That's why it's almost impossible, I would say it's impossible to recreate classical music the way Mozart actually did it. You'd have to turn the clock back, and the composer would have to be living in the 18th century. That's eating the food, the housing, the clothing, what it's like to not have anything but a fireplace perhaps to warm you, the scenery, what's going on in the world. There's a myriad and a million things I can't even describe, but that you would have to be in that context, and then on top of it you'd have to have some sort of training in a particular upbringing, and then you probably would have a good handle at writing authentically. I'm born in the 20th century, now coming to the 21st century, what's going on in the world, where I'm living, and my own influences all affect the makeup of my writing. But that's a contextual point. What I'm talking about is, even with education, even with understanding music theory, which has been generated by lots of academics and music scholars studying the things that worked well and made music in the past. We even have that in the idioms of jazz, which the theory being around now, but it came a decade or so after the protagonists of those periods were creating music. It was a way of analysing and understanding to some extent. And just learning a whole heap of the theory doesn't necessarily make you at the vanguard of that art either. So it's the art first, then the theory, in that order. Same with painting, same with sculpture, same with a lot of things. So getting back to the core of my talk now about the AI and its relevance, and also how it will impact. I think in contexts where the music is a secondary consideration, and unfortunately I'd have to say that in a lot of modern films that I encounter, the music is a secondary consideration. It's basically a form of an effect. Also, I have to be honest to say that the number of people that have a real broad experience with various types of music beyond the commercial El Popular is very small, percentage-wise. And so if they hear a AI-generated orchestral soundtrack that's pleasant enough in a movie, film track, a love scene, an action scene, I think there won't be much of a disturbance in the way that they enjoy the film and experience it. However, in terms of very thematic, very strident, very creative and reflective of our times, I think the composer his job is not lost. Well, I believe so anyway. I believe that the composer will always be on the cutting edge because it has that one distinction from the AI. We can come up with new. We don't just have mathematical algorithms to draw upon. We think, and we also imbue, and we create. So I guess it will have to be borne out whether that statement has validity, but I think that there will always be a demand, and particularly from a discerning public, that composed music, crafted music by humans, for humans, will be required. They might legislate, although that can be subject to manipulation. They might even legislate that a film done completely by a human, that has to be stated, or vice versa, that a film completely using AI or mostly AI, that has to be stated in the credits. Of course, that would be open to the integrity of directors and producers, and also a discerning public and a critical public. So will a human always trump an AI created piece? From the point of view of that, in the time when the piece is written, that's my thesis, is that a composer writing today, if I wrote lines of music today in 2025, that would be from that process of the subconscious, my subconscious having imbued all of the nuances and the contextual elements of the environment that I'm currently living in. A computer writing this morning, whatever algorithms are around, would have to base it on that, and I would suggest that it will be behind the times. And I will also suggest that the mechanical approach this to, and let's put it in very inverted commas many times, creativity, where the computer generates something based on an algorithmic thing, is not the organic way that a human would go about creating. Now, this is a very hard topic, and I think I'll reflect further and have further discussions about this, but I think there is a point of difference in the terms of creating music, that there will always be a difference. And as much as a computer can get faster at finding the algorithms and generating new expressions, I still don't believe that it hasn't got that ability to create something that is in the moment and is a turn in the direction. And that's what leading artists do. They follow, they emulate, but at a point they also go left or right in the forest that hasn't been trodden before. They make a decision, and it may not be based on anything logical. And I don't think that a computer, it might be instructed to be random, but I don't think that a computer can do that, because a change in direction is not necessarily wanton and random. I think I've opened a can of worms here. I think there's going to be more discussion, and as I said, the proof will be in the pudding as composers continue to write and AI continues to become sophisticated and there is more samples for discussion. Watch this space, perhaps. All right, that's enough for now.